In the heartland of North America, far from the salty spray of the Atlantic, a mystery lies etched in stone. This is the story of the Kensington Runestone, an object of immense controversy and regional pride. It is a tale that questions the very timeline of European exploration in the Americas. The saga begins not in the age of Vikings, but in the much more recent year of 1898. A Swedish immigrant farmer named Olof Öhman was clearing his land near the small town of Kensington, Minnesota. He was working to remove an aspen tree from a small hillock on his property. As he toiled, he discovered a large, flat stone entangled in the tree's root system. The stone was a slab of greywacke, about 30 inches long, 16 inches wide, and 6 inches thick. His son, Edward, was the first to notice the strange markings covering its face and one of its sides. These were not the familiar letters of the English or Swedish alphabet. They were runes, the ancient script of the Norse peoples. Öhman, reportedly unimpressed, initially thought it might be some form of Native American artifact. He brought the stone to his farm, where it was briefly used as a doorstep. The inscription on the stone, however, told a fantastic story. It claimed to be a record left by a party of Scandinavian explorers in the year 1362. This date was more than a century before Christopher Columbus's famous voyage. The text begins by stating the party consisted of 8 Goths and 22 Norwegians. They were on an exploration journey westward from Finland. The inscription describes a tragic event that befell the party. It says they had established a camp by a lake with 2 skerries, or rocky islets. This camp was a one-day journey north from where the stone was left. One day, after the main party went fishing, they returned to a horrifying sight. They found 10 of their men red with blood and dead. The inscription includes a prayer, Aim for Ave Virgo Maria, save us from evil. This mix of Christian piety with runic writing was itself a point of interest. The text concludes by stating that 10 men were left by the sea to look after their ships. This location was a 14-day journey away from the stone site. The discovery immediately ignited a firestorm of debate. Could it be true? Had Norse explorers penetrated so deep into the American continent? The initial scholarly reaction was overwhelmingly negative. Linguists and runologists in Scandinavia and America quickly denounced it as a forgery. They pointed to numerous linguistic anomalies in the text. The runes themselves, they argued, were a strange mix of different time periods. Some forms seemed to be much more modern than the purported 1362 date. The grammar and vocabulary used in the inscription also raised red flags. It appeared to be more consistent with 19th century Swedish than medieval Norse. The circumstances of the discovery were also viewed with suspicion. Some questioned whether Olof Öhman, perhaps with others, had fabricated the artifact. It was discovered that Öhman had books about runes in his possession. The stone was largely dismissed by the academic community and returned to Öhman. For years, it lay face down in his yard, ignored and neglected. But the story was far from over. A Norwegian-American writer and historian named Hjalmar Holland became the stone's most ardent champion. Holland acquired the stone from Öhman in 1907. He would spend the next 5 decades of his life tirelessly advocating for its authenticity. Holland wrote numerous books and articles on the subject. He traveled across America and Europe, presenting his case to scholars and the public. He developed a detailed historical narrative to support the 1362 date. Holland connected the stone to a real historical event, the Paul Knutsen expedition. In 1354, King Magnus Eriksson of Sweden and Norway commissioned a voyage to Greenland. The purpose was to investigate reports that the colonists there were abandoning their Christian faith. Oland theorized that this expedition, led by Paul Knutsen, traveled on from Greenland to North America. He argued they were searching for these wayward Greenlanders. This journey, Oland claimed, eventually led them deep into the continent, to what is now Minnesota. The party of Goths, Swedes, and Norwegians mentioned on the stone fit this narrative perfectly. Oland's work succeeded in reviving public interest in the runestone. For many Scandinavian Americans in the Midwest, the stone became a powerful symbol. It was proof that their ancestors had been the first true European pioneers of the region. The town of Alexandria, Minnesota, near Kensington, embraced the runestone as its own. They eventually built a dedicated museum to house and celebrate the artifact. A giant replica of the stone was erected in the town. Despite this local enthusiasm, the academic world remained largely unconvinced. The debate continued to rage through the 20th century. New scientific methods were applied to the stone to try and settle the question. Geological analysis of the stone's weathering produced conflicting results. Some studies suggested the inscription could not be ancient. They argued the carving showed little of the erosion expected after 500 years in the ground. Other analyses, however, concluded the weathering was consistent with a long burial. A 2003 study suggested the inscriptions were certainly older than 200 years. The linguistic debate also saw new arguments from both sides. Supporters proposed that the unusual runes and grammar could be explained as dialectal variations. They argued that a 14th century expedition would likely include people from various parts of Scandinavia. Critics, however, held firm that the language was undeniably modern. They identified specific words and grammatical constructions that did not exist in 14th century Norse. The mystery of the carver's identity, if it was a hoax, also deepened. Was it Olof Uman himself? Was he a simple farmer, or a learned man with a secret passion for runology and a mischievous streak? Some researchers have proposed other candidates from the local Scandinavian community. Perhaps a local clergyman or school teacher with the knowledge to create such a convincing fake. A recent theory points to a document created by a tailor named John Gran in the 1880s. This document contains some of the same unusual runes found on the stone. This has led some to believe the stone was a product of a local intellectual game among immigrants. Today, the scholarly consensus remains firm. The overwhelming majority of runologists, linguists, and historians consider the Kensington Runestone a 19th century creation. They see it as a fascinating and clever, but ultimately modern, artifact. Yet, the stone's allure persists. For believers, it remains a sacred relic of a forgotten history. It represents a direct, physical link to a bold and adventurous past. The debate highlights the tension between professional scholarship and popular belief. It shows how an object can take on a life of its own, far beyond its physical properties. Kensington Runestone is more than just a carved rock. It is a cultural touchstone, a source of identity, and a first-class historical mystery. Whether it is a genuine message from the 14th century or an elaborate 19th century hoax, its power to captivate is undeniable. The silence of the stone keeps the enigma alive. It continues to challenge our understanding of the past. It fuels speculation about what might have been. The journey of the stone itself is a remarkable odyssey. From the roots of an aspen tree to the center of a heated academic war, its narrative is woven into the fabric of Minnesota's local culture. The stone's inscription speaks of hardship and loss. It is a stark reminder of the perils of exploration. The plea to the Virgin Mary adds a layer of human desperation. This Christian element in a pagan script is a puzzle within a puzzle. It reflects a time of transition in Scandinavian culture. The 10 men left by the sea remain a haunting final thought. They real sailors waiting on a North American coast? Or are they characters in a story written 5 centuries later? The physical presence of the stone is undeniably potent. To stand before it is to feel the weight of its contested history. Each carving is a point of contention. Each word is a battlefield for scholars. The tree that held it is long gone. Olof Öhman and Hjalmar Holland are figures of the past. But the stone remains. It is a permanent question mark set in stone. Its legacy is not one of answers, but of enduring questions. It forces us to consider the boundary between history and folklore. It challenges the narratives we take for granted. The stone's journey from obscurity to fame is a lesson in itself. It demonstrates how an object's meaning is created by people. The Kensington Runestone is a mirror. It reflects our desires, our biases, and our need for connection to the past. Perhaps the final truth of the stone is not as important as the conversation it started. Conversation about who we are and where we come from. Enigma is the legacy. The controversy itself has become the story. The stone's tale is one of discovery and doubt. It is a story of faith and scientific scrutiny. It is a testament to the power of a good story. The stone continues to be a pilgrimage site for many. They come to see the artifact that rewrites history. Or perhaps, to see the masterpiece of a clever Minnesota hoaxer. The stone offers no easy answers. It only offers a deeper, more complex mystery. A mystery that began with a farmer and a tree. And a mystery that continues to this day, etched in stone.